Hey there, MSP TA Angelina Crittenden here, back again with another MSP lesson guide video. So this is the final lesson for the Oncology unit, Unit 1, and it's lesson 4, the different types of cancer. So as with every fourth lesson of the unit, you're going to first administer the post-test. Okay, so at the time that I taught this unit, we had a kind of an open-ended single question as our post-test, as well as kind of a space for students to draw. And I believe the question was, what is oncology? But since then, we've changed our post-test format, post and pre-test formats, to kind of be more geared towards, I don't know, second graders really, because the questions we had initially were just one single open-ended, very broad question. But now there's some matching, there's some multiple choice, fill in the blank, things like that. So it's more user-friendly. And I'm sure that this one will be no different, but it'll only take about 15 minutes to do that. And since if you are watching this video, it is likely that you've never administered a post-test before. So the thing about post-tests is you just want your students to write down what they have learned, what they remember. It would be nice to begin this lesson with review from the unit and then do the post-test, but you don't want to necessarily give them a bunch of hints as they're doing the test. Because that's not what we want. That would just be you then feeding them the answers. We really want them to tell us what they've learned. But there's no harm in having a nice review at the beginning of the lesson, of the entire unit. The way I like to do that is by showing all my students the pictures that I've taken throughout the unit and kind of, just showing them what we've learned so far. They just love seeing their own faces on screen, really. And after that, you can get started with the lesson. So this lesson, the students are going to learn more about the different types of cancer and which organ is affected by each type. So I find that this is more of an anatomy lesson than a cancer lesson, really. So you're going to have a bunch of different pictures and cutouts of organs, really, and some brown paper to trace a human person on. So I'll show you how this worked out for my class. So we had this one body and I placed the organs in their spots, okay? But before I placed them, I just had the tracing of the body posted on to the whiteboard. And then I had each of these cutouts. And I was facing the classroom. And what I did was I held up, say, the brain first in front of them, and I said, where do you think this goes? And what is it called? So they said, this is a brain. And then they pointed to the head. They pointed to their own heads, and then I put it onto the head of the cutout person here. And I did the same for each organ: the lungs, bone, liver, stomach, kidney, large intestine, and blood. As well as name and placement, I kind of did a short lecture about each organ and what it does. So I said, the brain processes all of our thoughts, it gives us direction, it's how we think, it controls our entire body. Okay. And they knew most of these. I think that the liver, kidney, and intestine are pretty new to them, but they know that the lungs breathe for you, your bones are your structure, your stomach's where your food goes, things like that. One thing that you can kind of tell them or teach them for this lesson is how the lungs and the blood kind of work together, as well as the bones, really. I mean, of course, all of our organs work together, but lungs and blood kind of go together because of, our pulmonary tract and things like that. So you can kind of tell them that blood actually carries oxygen that you breathe in from your lungs, and then it brings it to the rest of your body. So something like that, just to kind of tie all of these separate organs together, can really be helpful for this lesson. Now, I know that other TAs kind of made this more of a game where they said, which table can put the organs in the right spot. And they kind of competed, but I kind of wanted more of a lecture-based approach for this lesson. After we went over the placement of the organs, we talked about what kind of cancers happen and how the specific cancers affect each organ really. So we talked about brain cancer, we talked about lung cancer and what that looks like, especially with prolonged smoking. And I did show them a couple of pictures of some smokers' lungs compared to healthy lungs. Now beware, when you want to show pictures, I highly recommend showing illustrations first before you kind of get into the real pictures, because they're second graders and they can get really squeamish if they see a real organ, let alone even just skin sometimes. So be careful with what you show them. And I think that's all I have for this lesson.